Manly Hall official, is glad to produce, publish and offer. The Divine Presence. My trip back to England after I left the Temple of the Caves in northern India and my Master of the Shining Robe was without events, so there is little use in describing it. The long ocean trip, then the railway with its stuffy little compartments, and finally back again to the scenes of my earlier life. I was not, however, the same individual in many ways, for a great ideal had been given to me, that of giving to the world the wonderful truths and inspirations that had been given to me in India. My estates and position gave me considerable opportunity, and added to this a strange eloquence came to me after my return to England, so I sought to instruct a few of the Western world on the problems which had been unfolded to me. The way, however, was beset with difficulties. Only those who have sought to educate the human mind can realize the hopelessness of the task. Day in and day out I hammered at the wall of conventionality and popular opinion which religiously and scientifically paralyzed thought. In many cases I met opposition, and in still more an absolute thoughtlessness with no desire to change the condition. But still I kept at the task that I felt had been given to me, attempting to warn mankind of the great cataclysms, pestilences and sorrows which hung over them as the reward for their foolishness, selfishness and indolence. I gathered a few thinkers around me, and also some who opposed my every move and who seemed to glory in each opportunity to tear down and destroy my selfless efforts. One person especially appointed himself as my annihilator. Through press, pulpit and rostrum I was assailed, both personally by this individual and through others whose instigations were based upon his maliciousness. He was a scientist of the old school, one of those narrow-minded individuals occasionally met with who in the spirit of the Inquisition fights tooth and nail for the perpetuation of antediluvian concepts. For many months he railed against my very being, pointing me out as a scourge to the race, for no earthly reason whatsoever except an honest difference of opinion. Insult after insult he heaped upon me, spitting out his venom between clenched teeth, and finally challenging me to publicly meet him and prove my impossible theories. The thought terrified me, for the man in question was one of the greatest, most noted scientists that Europe had ever produced, a graduate from a dozen colleges and universities, indefatigable in his researches and unapproachable in his scientific reasoning. He had broken a dozen scientists and philosophers who had sought to question his statements. A colossal mentality and an unbreakable will with a convincing power of eloquence listed him as one of the materialistic marvels of his age. Although I realized the truth of my statements, the idea of my attempting to debate him upon his own ground seemed ridiculous, for though what I said might ring true in the caves of the Himalayas, how would it sound before a group of physical scientists who did not believe anything which they could not see, weigh and measure? I was minded to refuse, but something within my being whispered no. So with much hesitation and many qualms I accepted his ultimatum, and arrangements were settled that on a certain Friday evening I was to debate and discuss with him the continuity of human consciousness, mental evolution, and the existence of the sacred schools of wisdom in the heart of the unknown East. As the hours drew closer, a peculiar sickening sensation made itself felt in the pit of my stomach, and my knees wobbled in a rather undignified manner as I got into my cab and headed for the gloomy walls of a certain local club, where scientists and bookworms were accustomed to gather. I felt pretty sure of what my opponent was going to say, but I had no idea whatsoever of how I was going to answer his attack in a manner convincing to materialists. So with fear and trepidation and a mental hope that my opponent would be kind, which I greatly doubted, I entered the chili and mingled with the group of London philosophers and scientists who composed it. The professor with whom I was going to debate was introduced to me, and I met my rabid disqualifier for the first time. He was a short, portly gentleman in a nice-fitting, black Prince Albert and striped trousers. If you're enjoying this video and finding value in the content, we kindly ask you to take a moment to subscribe to the channel. A large portion of our listeners and viewers haven't subscribed yet, and by doing so, you'll help us grow and continue bringing you more high-quality audiobooks. Your support means a lot to us, and it's just one click away. So, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to stay connected and never miss out on our latest releases. His two steely gray eyes, divided by a very hooked nose, shone out from beneath brows of Darwinian proportion. He was very much bespectacled and heavily bewhiskered, and his gold pince-nez insisted on sliding down his nose at the critical moment. When we were introduced, he looked me over with the air of a physician examining a specimen, answered "Humph," and turning on his heel walked away, his hands clasped beneath his coat-tails. The reader will of course realize that this put me entirely at my ease. I felt like a tiny Lilliputian entirely surrounded by a mountain range of massive brows, weighty intellects and overwhelming pomposity, and I also not a little feared the raging lions and tigers which intuition told me lived in the fastnesses of these mountains. Slowly the exponents of worldly wisdom gathered, and seating themselves in the massive leather armchairs whispered together in awful tones from the midst of clouds of tobacco smoke. Of course I imagine that they were talking about me, probably sympathizing with my dying cause. As I seated myself beside the professor on the small rostrum, some 80 pairs of spectacles reflected a dazzling light in my face, and I seemed gazing out on a blank void edged with gleaming stars. As these exponents of learning, lost arts, and buried sciences gazed analytically at my shrinking figure, which grew smaller as the moments passed, the professor rose, and carefully arranging his notes, placed his spectacles once more, fitting on an extra lens, cleared his throat, balanced one elbow on the reading desk, and gazed benignly over the top of his glasses at the assembled group. "Ahem, it is indeed a pleasure to address you for a few moments on this problem. There's nothing more interesting than the analysis of psychomo, blood clots on the brain, and various forms of non-violent insanity and mental unbalance such as my opponent suffers from." He then began quoting eminent authorities on the problem and misquoting me profusely. As the moments passed, the professor's ire rose. He heaped infamy upon insult in endless procession, grew red around the collar band, and puffed excitedly. Most of his verbose outbreaks centralized upon the first point, namely, that I was dangerously insane, completely irresponsible, and that my only possible use in the world was to die in order that scientists might have the privilege of performing a post-mortem autopsy upon my cerebral vesicles purely in the interest of research. At this point the professor's glasses fell off and he rearranged his notes. "Friends and fellow scientists, the theory of mental evolution is tommyrot, pure and simple, the outpouring of a demented imagination perpetuated only through lunatics such as the one sitting beside me now. I will defy him to prove that anything proceeds protoplasm or follows disintegration or incineration. The professor then continued to explain life as being something coming from nothing through a series of scientific deductions and returning from whence it came through another series of physiological inductions. He proved, to his own satisfaction, that neither God nor spirit, life, or any energy outside of matter was necessary in the perpetuation and procreation of species, but that a full and complete knowledge of this indispensable fact was the basic outpouring of modern, unapproachable science. Hearty applause at this point. The professor bowed and slipped one thumb under his vest flap, exposing a massive gold watch chain draped artistically across an astonishing expanse of white waistcoat. It appeared that the professor was quite a religious man, for he quoted scripture glibly and with evident gusto to discredit the doctrine of physical rebirth taught in the East and which I had been promulgating in my studies. He quoted various scientific authorities in profusion and finally wound up by presenting me with a series of questions which he demanded that I answer if I expected even a moment's recognition from the infallible sciences of which he was the omnipresent incarnation. Handing me the slip of paper containing the questions, typewritten in mathematical precision, he sat down, a whirlwind of personality and the most perfect example of self-conceit that it has ever been my privilege to gaze upon. I was broken. I had no oratorial harangue to come back with, and I felt that my knowledge, although I knew it was true based upon only an improbable story of apparently impossible happenings, would carry no weight among this band of thoughtless thinkers and second-hand mental gymnasts. I rose to my feet. A deep hush and a rather blank atmosphere surrounded me, not half so empty however as my own mind, which seemed incapable of any expression. What I was going to say I had no idea of, and the slip of paper in my hand seemed a living coal which I longed to drop. I was the most miserable thing on the face of the earth, none excepted, and a chuckle from the professor showed that he realized this fact. Of course it was a very low, refined chuckle. I had been standing some 30 seconds, which seemed like as many years, trying to gather some word or thought from the ethers which swirled in my brain, when suddenly a hand was placed upon my shoulder, and a voice whispered in my ear, "Have courage, you are not alone." I must have started violently, although it appeared that no one noticed me. The voice was that of the master I had left in Thibet, and his hand rested upon my shoulder as it had that fatal night in the Temple of the Caves. In some mysterious way I seemed to see him there, standing behind me, his robe flowing in silver and opal, and with a great courage which seemed born of divine inspiration I opened my mouth and started to speak words that I did not understand myself, but which flowed in an endless stream with a power and eloquence unquestionable. Prometheus, the eternal sufferer. The seer, gazing out into the endless ages of the past, sees a phantom file of mighty ones passing like specters through the eons of the past. Mighty powers in world creation, these silent, shadowy, unknown ones pass down the endless corridors of time. Living, suffering, and dying, the divine illuminators serve a world that knows them not. Once there was a seeker who sought to learn the meaning of life with its compound riddle, but for him the great compassion, the realization of truth, and the knowledge of nature's sublime laws were still shrouded in the great uncertainty. So one night he was taken far away from the haunts of men by a guide he could not see, and a strange story was unfolded to him which made life different than it had ever been before. This searcher after knowledge wandered over many mountains and through the deep blue of an endless sky on wings of unknown power. Guided by some subtle force, he was carried to the base of a mighty mountain which rose broken and twisted by nature's upheavals. It was a gloomy mountain whose lava-blackened rocks and lofty sides were seamed and broken as they reached up to touch the blue above. Slowly the student was carried up the mountain through the shades of evening, and as he ascended, one lonely pinnacle rose above the rest like the mighty needle of the Matterhorn. As he neared the ragged crest, a strange sight met his vision, and he gave a gasp of astonishment. There, stretched upon the bare stones, was a human body unprotected by even a single garment from the icy blasts of snow. The form writhed and struggled in mortal agony as it feebly sought with the puny strength of man to loosen its bonds of steel which seemed cast by the gods themselves. The figure was chained to a great rock by 4 shackles held down by steel stakes driven deep into the stone. The arms and legs were spread, and the tortured figure was literally crucified upon the gigantic granite boulder. As the student drew near, he shuddered, for the rock was red with the blood of the agonized captive, and a mighty vulture greater far than any bird known to earth clawed and tore at the side of the chained man. The student turned aside his head. The sight was too terrible and he could not stand it, but a power greater than his own forced his gaze back to the figure chained to the living cross of granite. As he stood there, his eyes held by he knew not what, a low moan escaped from the lips of the sufferer, and 2 great eyes wet with tears of anguish and suffering turned toward the man who had come from earth. No word the chained being uttered, no plea for help, but the agony of his soul poured out from those great eyes of sorrow, reaching to the very depth of the seeker's soul. "Who are you?" asked the one of earth, gazing at the massive brow bordered with locks of golden hair. "I gasped the crucified one. "I am Prometheus, friend of man." "Why are you chained to this rock?" "Because," murmured the chained victim, while the vulture still gnawed at the gaping hole in his side, "because I rebelled against Jupiter, Lord of heaven. Not because I loved him less, but because the woes of mankind pained me more. When the gods decreed that man must die, I stole the sacred fire from heaven and brought it down to earth that man might live. For this I have been chained to the rock, where I must remain forever unless a champion is found on earth who can break the fetters that bind me." The student, sick at heart and in agony unutterable, turned away and passed silently down the mountain's side back again to the land of men from whence he had come. But each day a great sadness gnawed at his soul, even as the talons of the mighty bird clawed at the entrails of Prometheus. Through nights he prayed, through days he labored, until a great ideal was born within his soul. He would liberate the friend of man from that awful rock which formed his cross. One night, after years of waiting, as he knelt in his little room, a shining form appeared to tell him of the wondrous truths which he had sought. In a ray of light the shining figure stood, and holding out his arms said, "Come, I will teach you how to liberate the dying Prometheus." The candidate rose and passed with his shining companion into the darkness of a great unknown. As they went along, the guide of many-colored lights spoke, saying, "In the days when the world was young, great souls suffered that man might live. A divine essence descended from heaven against the will of the gods, bringing with it the light of truth. This essence took up its home in the body of man, bringing with it the fire of the gods, and from this fire is born the mystic essence which feeds the mind that man may think. It has given him the flame of energy, but has brought also the flame of war and the torch that burns the home. It is the birth of the passions, the lusts and the greeds. And now the friend of man is chained to the rock while the lower animal desires and passions of humanity feed of the life which he brought with so much suffering to illuminate man. Know you, O Son of Man, you are the black stone. Within you is chained Prometheus, the light bringer, a divine intelligence, the friend of mortal things. But the perversions of man and the crystallization and degeneracy of his life have chained this world's Savior, and the God of life is now crucified upon the cross of matter, there to remain until man shall kill the vulture which gnaws at his vitals. Our lives, while we seem to live them for ourselves alone, are far more important than we think, for it is our duty to release the Savior from the darkness of his cross which our own actions have chained him to. For what has man done with the fire that came down from heaven? Has he burned it upon the altars of his gods? Has he returned it again to the divine from whence it came? No. He has taken the fire of the gods, given to him at such tremendous sacrifice, and has fanned it into flames of selfishness and lust, wasting it and crucifying it in useless expressions of destruction, and has utterly failed to build with it the giant of strength and power who must release Prometheus from the mountain of stone. But there is one coming, the strong one, the child of the sun Hercules, and he shall release Prometheus from his ages of torment. And each one of you, O children of earth, must become that Hercules. With the light which ye have found, the shining sun, ye must build of the flame brought by Prometheus the mind and the body, that we may sever his bonds and pay our debt to the first great friend of man. Slowly the mighty mountain rose before them in the sky, and as they drew closer they could see the lonely figure still hanging upon the slanting stone, his eyes turned in agony towards the sun, that great globe of light whose rays must release him from his endless torture. Still the vulture with claw and talon tore at his liver, still the rock was spattered with his blood, and still in divine trust and a great peace that surpasseth understanding, Prometheus waited for the prophecy to be fulfilled, that a strong one should rise from those whom he had served, one who should release him from the cross. The shining guide spoke. "O Prometheus, friend of man, have courage. Through the ages the soul of man is awakening, and the time shall yet come when he shall know your sacrifice. Some day from the fires which you have brought him he shall build and smelt the tools to set you free. Wait yet a little while. The world is young and the curse of the gods is terrible, but still one shall come to free you from your bonds." The divine face of the sufferer lighted with a glory beyond the words of human to express. "I will wait. And I am glad in my agony, for I love man. Though it be 100,000,000 ages, it is not in vain. I saved man from an endless darkness and have brought upon myself a punishment that is great indeed, but I am willing to bear all if man but makes himself great and glorious through my sacrifice. How little do those whom I have served realize the price that I am paying for their freedom. As the fires within man flare and burn, fed by the lowest and the worst, they little know or realize that there is one tied to the rock who feels in the anguish of his soul each perversion of the sacred flame. For not only does the fire light man's way, but by the curse of Jove it burns as well. In the light I have brought them they have used to slay me with, but I can wait. Through ages unnumbered since, before the dawn of time, I have hung upon this rock. 100,000,000 times has this vulture of lust and fury clawed away my life, but the curse of the gods is endless, for as fast as the vulture's talons rend the flesh, more grows to take its place. I am the eternal sufferer. It is I, not man, who feels the most of pain, for his abuses of my sacred fire. I brought it in a reed from heaven to kindle on the hearthstones of the world, but they have desecrated my altars, they have broken my most sacred vows. And though I save them from oblivion, my only fear is that they may not yet escape it. But when one is found who purifies my fire and harnesses its flames, freeing my light from the world of sin and abuse, that one shall climb to this lofty height and free me from my agony. Until then I wait. But as you burn the fire of life away, forget not Prometheus, the friend of man, who feels in the clawing of the vulture the abuse of that life he gave so much to bring from the rare and unobtainable writings of Robert Fludd, the medieval English alchemist and Rosicrucian, who is said to have brought the teachings of C.R.C. from Germany, and to have been closely connected with the early development of both Masonry and Rosicrucianism. The plate represents the hierarchies of nature, and its great lesson to the student of occult philosophy lies in the analogy between elements, chemicals, planets, gods, and celestial hierarchies. The plate is divided into two grand divisions like the horoscope of astrology. That which is below the central horizontal line represents the inferior creation, while that which is above symbolizes the superior creation. As the superior creation is the cause all world, there is laid out in this chart the superphysical hierarchies and the various intelligent powers behind manifestation. The upper half of the diagram is symbolical of the Masonic Lodge and the body of the enlightened Mason, while the lower part symbolizes the unilluminated negation of being. In the concentric rings are placed the names of the powers of the universe as they are found in the various sacred arts and sciences. The sacred Hebrew names and the Sephirah of the Hebrew Kabbalah are found in the spaces between A and B. The superphysical hierarchies of divine beings and the leading angels and rulers of the hierarchies pass through the sphere marked by the line of B. Under C, we have the astrological worlds, and under D, the natural, chemical, alchemical, mineral and animal kingdoms laid out as they are found in nature. In the outside rings beyond A, we find the primitive principles of creation with the part they play in the unfolding of a universe, an individual, or a protoplasmic cell. This is one of the most complicated of the alchemical plates and can never be satisfactorily explained until the individual has unfolded a very high degree of spiritual sight and insight. The passage of man through the spiritual worlds of nature and the 12-fold constitution of his own globe and chain is the result of conscious initiation which, until it takes place, conceals from man because of his own consciousness limitation the mysteries which are the heritage of the wise. There are really no mysteries in nature for those who have earned the right to know, neither is there anything concealed that shall not be revealed. But the only way that the unseen can be brought into conscious manifestation is when man removes the veils of limitation from his own eyes by growth and unfoldment. Thus these plates which we have been issuing in our magazine have a very great meaning, but like the sacred scriptures of the illuminate are sealed forever from the ignorant by their own ignorance. No mere intellectual power is capable of unveiling the divine mysteries. Only soul qualities, the highest of the spiritual reflective powers, the co-joining of spiritual reason and mystical intuition, is capable of producing true illumination. The first step to the study of these plates is neither reading nor meditating but practical self-regeneration, which will give the higher power in man an opportunity of expressing its own omnipotent knowledge. This plate contains the entire secret of spiritual rulership and analogy, but no more may be said about it than that each individual must file from his own organisms the key which shall unlock its mysteries. For the wise design these things for the use of the wise, and the price of understanding the words of the illuminated is to become illuminated yourself. This is done when the light of spirit shines forth to bring out the colors on the printed page through the regenerated lantern of the philosopher, his own sevenfold body organism. The plate in this month's magazine is of the philosophical marriage and the philosopher's stone, and is taken from the secret writings of Henry Conrath. Its description will follow next month. A discourse on the 8 perfections. And the thrice blessed Lord spoke unto his disciple, from the heart of his lotus throne, explaining those things which are the great intelligences and the basis of union with that which is above. By his conduct is man's salvation measured, and by his works is his soul ordained. Of these 8 intelligences, which are the ways of perfection, should all men learn, that they may sanctify themselves in the eyes of Brahma, the one who is. So the Lord of the Lotus Lips spoke, saying, the first great intelligence is the perfection of perception, for he who perceiveth things has power equal unto his perception. And all things may be known by any who are capable of seeing them. Learn, O son, to perfect thyself in sight, that when thou lookest thou shalt see the reality, for behind the veil of Maya is concealed all true workings. And unto those who see with eyes that God has opened all of the plan is manifest, even unto the least of the creatures, for each stick and stone tells of that which is eternal, each passing glance, each action and thought is a key to the destiny of a universe. Therefore, O disciple, learn to perceive that each day new lessons shall come unto thee, because thou hast found them in that which eternally is. For now that all knowledge is about thee always, but must forever remain unknown until perfect perception crowns thee with the jewels of omnipotence. Thus spoke the blessed Lord of the first intelligence, which is perception, saying, learn also that that which thou sayest first is not the reality, save when through perfection thou perceiveth that which is invisible. What thou first sayest is Maya, the great illusion, but reality molds illusion, and he who hath a right perception perceiveth the reality in the expressions of its not being. Know, therefore, O Son of Man, that mortal perception seeth nothing but the shadow, while divine perception alone seeth that which is, knowing that the reality casteth the shadow, and he is blind who worships the reflection. Moreover, know that he who perceiveth that which is not knoweth that it shall yet be the cause of that which is, that one is threefold wise in perception. While he who perceiveth that which is, and through his perception seeth that which is to come, when the reality gathered unto itself the illusion, is also wise. For now that the great perception is not to perceive a thing unto itself, but to perceive the action of reality upon that which is not itself. Therefore, perceive 3 things: that which is not, and that which shall be from the union of these 2. For the action of one thing upon another showeth unto the wise man the power of that which is unseen and invisible, save through its reactions upon illusion. Know, therefore, child of earth, that perfect perception seeth life and death, not by denying death, but by piercing the veil of Maya. Perfect perception is that which seeth good and evil. not by denying evil but by piercing the veil of Maya, or the belief in that which has no being. Also know that perfect perception pierceth all things save the eye of God, which it beholdeth free of the veil of illusion. He who hath perfect perception is great, for he hath seen the reason of all things, and for all things. He who hath perfect perception seeth one reason for all things, for with his perception he has perceived perfectly that diversity is born of unreality, and that unity is the divine reality. These are the words which the Blessed One spoke of the first intelligence, which is perception, and of the way in which a man should labor if he would be free from selfish selflessness. He then opened a petal of the lotus and said as follows, "Behold, I would speak of the second perfection, that which is the intelligence of purpose and the perfection of right aim. By the purpose of a thing is it measured. The best work which thou may do, be it without purpose and intelligent aim, is Maya, that is, illusion. There must be a purpose for all works, and right perception, which is the first intelligence, must illuminate the disciple unto the path of right purpose. There is hot one purpose wherein man may he intelligent in purpose and acceptable in the sight of his Lord, and that is to be worthy of nirvana. By its reason for being is a thing measured, and a man who labors without reason labors to no purpose. He who labors without ideal labors to no purpose. He who labors without sacrifice labors to no purpose. He who labors without compassion labors to no purpose. He who labors in selfishness labors to no purpose. But he who labors for that which is eternal, he labors to perfect purpose. Know, therefore, that before thou laborest for thy God, decide upon that for which thou shalt labor, and by its choice shall the labor he measured, insomuch as ye are chosen." Thus spoke the Lord of the Lotus upon the second great intelligence, which is right purpose, intelligent aim, wherein man may be one with that which is, and true unto himself, because he is true to all things, is the basis of noble purpose. The spark of the flame came down for the one purpose, that it might be perfect in purpose, whereas now it is imperfect in purpose. Wherefore man is to perfect purpose by being one in his ideals with reality. There is but one perfect purpose, and that is the perfection of purpose, which man learns only through the veil of Maya, where he labors in imperfect purpose with that which is not so good and that which is better, thus learning the great perfection. Such is the perfection of purpose. With these words the Lord of the 10,000 perfections spoke of the third intelligence, which is perfect speech, saying, "Men speak many things. The wise men speak great truths, the foolish speak only words that they may listen to themselves. These words mean nothing save to the wise man who learns from them that the speakers of them are fools. Therefore of perfect speech I would say, speak not too much, for he who wasteth words wasteth life, as words are living things. By much speaking man becometh careless of his words, which then lose their meaning and are but sounds. Yet by much thinking man speaketh little, and so becometh perfect in speech, whereas he saith much less in words, but infinitely more in truth. For perfect speech meaneth that all words shall be of truth, and not of illusion. The man who speaketh with his mouth saith nothing hot, when he speaketh with the Spirit he saith that which is wise. Therefore it is that man should be perfect of speech and intelligent of words, which we know as the third great intelligence." And then spoke the blessed Lord of the intelligence of perfect speech, saying, "Perfect speech is kind, and saith only that which is true, and serveth three, the one spoken to, the one speaking, and God who hears them both. He who would know the bliss of union with his Lord must have control of tongue, that he saith not that which is untrue, that which is hateful, that which injureth, or that which teareth down and is malicious, for these things are of death and not of life. And whoso controlleth not his tongue will never be one with the immortals, who speaketh only words of wisdom. He who is perfect in speech hurteth not another, being kind with that which is, and generous with the great illusion. A sharp tongue hath not with its God nor with me, for he who hath a sharp tongue speaketh with the mouth only, and useth the vain words which, while often sharper than an adder's tooth, mean naught, for they come from naught. Therefore, O son, be perfect in speech, that your words be kind, true, and not too plentiful, that ye speak with your mind and your heart that only which is of truth or reality, and not with your bodies which are hot unrealities. So saith the blessed Lord of the third perfection, which is intelligent speech. Then taketh he the lotus and resumeth, this is the fourth perfection, which is intelligent conduct both unto thyself and unto those that surround thee. For know that a man of God who weareth the braided cord must conduct himself according to the law, and must strive that his conduct be perfect insomuch as it is within his power. He who watcheth not his conduct each day soon becometh careless, and faileth to conduct himself according to the ways of light. Therefore, I give ye these instructions, that ye may live and conduct yourself in that way which is acceptable to Brahma. First, conduct yourself in simplicity, that there be no forward thing in you which is not good in the eyes of the Most High. Be ye not first, neither be ye last, but where ye belong according to that which you yourself knoweth. Second, conduct thyself with civility unto all things, and with righteousness unto thy gods. Wherein ye fail to do this, ye bring upon ye the calamities of which ye know. Thus spoke the blessed Lord unto his disciple at the foot of the mountain of the fourth perfection, which is intelligent conduct, saying, By what my priests do, so am I judged, and as ye conduct yourself, so men say do I, the Lord of men, conduct myself. Therefore be ye ever mindful that ye conduct yourself according to the ways which are of wisdom. Give not to that which is temporal, but be strong for that which is eternal. Conduct yourself in peace when others are in strife. Conduct yourself in meekness when others are discordant. Conduct yourself in simplicity when others are vainglorious. By this shall men know that ye are seeking for that which is eternal, and not that which is of illusion. For by your works are the gods judged, insomuch as ye claim to be the mouthpiece of the gods. And realizing that ye live not of yourself but of God, live that ye may serve others through noble conduct, which shall point ye out from the world of men as one trusted and beloved of the gods, as their divine messenger. In this the blessed Lord classeth the fourth great perfection, which is intelligent conduct, and speaketh of the fifth, which is intelligent living. For behold, he liveth only who learneth at the feet of the Lord of wisdom, of that of which life is composed. Copyright 2025 by Manly Hall Official. Thank you for listening. Please consider to subscribe, like, and share, to help the channel growth, new videos on a daily basis.